What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Raid Shadow Legends video. We got the Amius rotation boss guide today in article form. Now, earlier this month, I came out with a boss guide called the Amius rotation on YouTube, and it focused on a specific kind of team composition that you can use from one rotation to the next to beat this boss, no matter what rotation it is. So during that video was rotation number 3, and then currently we are in rotation number 4. Using this very method in this guide, during rotation number 4, I was able to secure the 7th kill in the world on Amius, and I was 3rd at the time. This proves that the guide is reliable, it's fast, and it has no gimmicks. So the boss guide has not changed, it is exactly the same, but what has happened now is I've translated it to article form. And the article system has been in design for quite some time now, but that's all that really took all this time to do, was to finish the article system, to get the articles to be inserted into it. The article itself has been done since rotation number 1, but here it is in rotation number 4. We finally got stuff done. Now I want to go over the actual guide itself and kind of go over the website and show you like just how it works, what you have to do, and all the different things to get to a successful win in the fight. The first 2 things that you have to do is, number 1, get your champions ready, and number 2, get the artifact stats and stats to the correct thresholds. So let's go over that now, and I'm going to go head over to basically the very end here, all the way over to the wrap-up, because the wrap-up is going to be once you've done step 1, 2, all the way through 9, you're going to want to come over here to the wrap-up and see the TLDR, too long didn't read, portion of the article, just so you can kind of go over it in a quick form. We've got it here, every single step, what you have to do in quick form here. Now, the very first step 1, we'll go back to that for 1 second, says get your champions right. So you're going to want to get the right team composition set up before you start the fight. All right? That's first and foremost the most important part. Now, there's more than one way to beat this boss. There's actually lots and lots of different ways to beat this boss. This is just one form of, way to do that. So this form, for example, I would say it's one of the easiest forms that everybody should be able to do at some point in your account's, history. And what I mean by that is, like, everybody's going to have a decreased attack champion at some point, a block debuffs buffer, a buff removal champion, a heal reduction debuffer, a cleanser, and they should be able to get that all in one rotation because, this boss right here is not meant to be like an early game boss fight or early game, type of encounter. It is a late game, in-game type of encounter. So there's most definitely many ways to beat this boss. There's ways to cheese him with one champion. There's ways to do him, in one single turn. There's lots of different ways to kill this guy. The very first thing you need is these sets of champions right here. And let me say one last thing before we go over the stats. These are all pretty much optional for the most part. Like the heal reduction debuffer is optional, a cleanser is optional, brimstone is optional, buff removal champion is optional even. If you can survive the hits with the boss has increased attack on, then so be it. I've done it. It can definitely be done. Really all you need is the block debuffs buff and the decreased attack and the dummy buffs if you want to control Amius during the boss fight. Let's go down to step 2 real fast. Get your stats right on your champions. That's a very important step. Right now, it's really just about reaching certain thresholds in your HP, your speed, your accuracy, and then piling on as much defense once you've hit those thresholds right there. And got the boss statistics here. We'll get those graphics right there for you later. Basically, artifact set-wise, the artifact sets don't matter. I mean, they really don't. They kind of add extra stuff to the fight. You can, for example, do more damage with crit damage, kill stroke. You can mitigate more damage with Defiant. You can mitigate more damage with Guardian, although that's a little bit dangerous on some champions. They got to be able to do it. If they can't, they can't. Immortal, Lifesteal, Regeneration can all heal you up a little bit extra. Perception is a really easy way to get extra speed and accuracy. Savage Lethal will do more damage. Toxic applies poisons, which will do more damage. So there's definitely a couple artifact sets that can help you out. There's more than one way to skin a cat for sure. So this one is very specific though to what I'm talking about, and I do want you to kind of follow along this way if you can't get it done any other way. If you don't have a faster way to do it, if you don't have a more meta way to do it, if you don't have a champion to cheese it with, use this one right here. This one will get you through rotation 1 through rotation 5 each and every time. Now, like I said before, I use specific gear sets, like Kitus in the example right here has the perception set. I have a toxic set that I use, and in each rotation, and I could swap it during free gear removal that would fit on him just fine and give him pretty much the same statistics. So whatever, sets you can use, even mismatched sets, if you have those, is fine. As long as you get through the fight, that's all that really matters. All right, let's go over to the boss really fast and check out the filters. I want you guys to see this really fast. This is really cool. If I choose a buff, for example, it'll show me all the champions for this, boss fight that I have on my account that applies to. Block debuffs buff, for example, we have Rio, Sathalia, Manaya, the Poultry Sentinel, Maneater, and you can go through basically every buff, every debuff, and see who you have in your account that applies to those. It's really cool. All right, so let's go check the decrease attack. Like we have Rio, Harima, Mishinaki, Lord Champfort. We got a lot of champions here. Tahanarak, Hegemon, Ursaga, that applies to, that we could use for that spot. Now that's very cool. Let me show you guys something out on the website. Let's check that out. All right, on the website, we have buffs, we have debuffs, we have almost 900 champions in the game at the moment, and all of them are on the website. So let's go to the debuffs, for example. We'll go to decrease attack 50%, and it's going to show us all the AoE champions, all the single target champions, and all the random target champions in the game that have that debuff. And then if we go to the factions, for example, we can actually search, just like in the game, by the different affinities, rarities, factions, hero type, all that good stuff. The rotation number 4, for example, has Bannerlords, Barbarians, Knights Revenant, Ogryn Tribes, and Shadowkin. Let's go ahead and select those. We found 39 champions with this debuff based on those factions, and here we go. That's the list. So for this fight and this team composition, the Amius rotation, we're going to have a decrease attack 50% champion, a block debuffs buff champion, we're going to have a heal reduction champion, and then HP burn, poison, bombs, taunt, ally protection, and buff removal is all optional, but all can help you out in quite a substantial way, especially the taunt buff here. Our base and Green Warden Ruark basically trivialize the fight until the boss basically tickles those guys. He ain't gonna hurt them at all through taunt, stone skin, or taunt, increase defense and strengthen. It's nuts. Imic as well. This is a very good buff for this fight. I can't recommend it enough. Your HP burns, poisons, bomb debuffs are definitely going to contribute more damage and more raw damage to the fight. Now, I don't have a way to see all the decrease buff timer champions yet, or a way to see the buff removal champions just yet. But again, if you go back in the game here, we go to other effects here, we go to negative effects, we have decrease buff duration. So that one's available. I got Timid the Fool here. Then we have remove buffs, and see all the champions that are available with that skill for this rotation. So we have Shimnath, for example, Uger, the Worm Eater, Mishinaki. Any of those champions would be able to work in that capacity. So you have a lot of options available to you, just lots and lots of options each rotation, depending on who you have in your account. But let's go back to the website. Go head over to the wrap-up real fast. We'll go back through step 2, and then we'll head over to step 3 and actually show you through the boss fight. Step 3 through 8, which is basically the whole rotation. Now, once you get to step 9, you basically repeat the process, and it's a very simple process. As long as you can get through one rotation of it, you should be able to beat the boss fight. It only takes 2 to 3 rotations typically, as long as nothing goes wrong. Go ahead and try it out in the match real fast. Go with the block debuffs buff first. Some A1s, unless we have a reason otherwise to use an A2 or an A3, like Harima's A2 here decreases defense. We use that. Go with the A1 HP burn. Now we'll go with the decrease attack to trigger the A3. Here we go. Okay, he flipped his debuffs to buffs. Now you don't want to put a bunch of debuffs on him because he'll boost his turn meter. So let's go ahead and do the heal reduction. And we need to get those buffs off of him. So we need to get the A3 from Sathalia here. Let's go ahead and keep using A1s unless we have a good reason not to. All right, so at some point it's okay to use debuffs again, but when he's using his A2 is not a good idea in either form. We'll keep using A1s. Now we got to get some dummy buffs on here really soon. Gonna heal up a little bit. Okay, so we're going to use Ursula the Mourner's A2 for the dummy buffs because it has increased attack for the whole team. Titus's A2 works as well, but it only has one buff, and we need more than one buff to get Amius to trigger his A3 in his alternate form. We'll go ahead and use the decreased attack here and get the increased attack buff, and that should be enough to do it. All right, we got flipped. Okay, we got Rio awake, but we're not going to go ahead and cleanse yet because we need the block debuffs buff to come back around. So we got the decreased attack on right now. Should be an okay time with the hit. We got increased defense and strengthen now from Ursula. We should be good to go here. We'll see. A1. Yeah, good to go. So Ursula the Mourner isn't even very tanky at all in her build currently. We'll go back to the cycle as soon as we get the A3 to come back on for Rio. There we go. So we'll get the block debuffs buff here. Put that on, and then it's going to recycle the whole thing again. It's very important at this point to remember you need your buff removal person to go before your heal reduction debuffer. Make sure they're speed tuned in that order. All right, since we're back in the cycle and we're still in rotation, everything's looking good. I'm just going to go ahead and put this in fast forward, and I'll see you guys at the end of the video. All right, let me slow it down right here and say we got a little bit off cycle, a little bit out of rotation there, and that's okay. We still end up being all right. We're still looking good. But the reason for that was because we had a little too many debuffs on the boss, and we did his A2. He got too much turn meter from flipping him into buffs, and that didn't allow Sathalia enough time to get a turn to use her A3 to do the buff removal. So we kind of had to do it on the next turn. Thankfully, it was okay because we had the heal reduction still on, so he didn't heal up. But that could have been a little bit bad if there was a block debuffs buff on. We're still looking good, though, so we're just going to power right through this and finish him off. You guys will notice we didn't have Brimstone, but that's okay. You don't necessarily need that. Most of these things are kind of optional. What you do need is the decreased attack. You need the block debuffs buff, and you need those dummy buffs, man. Let's wrap this video up, but one last thing I wanted to address before we do that is a couple of the meta champions in the video, like Harima, we got Rio Bone Spear. Sometimes some of the better champions in the rotation happen to be free champions like UDK. They could be past guaranteed champions like Rio Bone Spear. They could be past fusions. Sometimes they're rares. We've had Cold Heart during this rotation, rotation number 4. We have Marked from the Barbarians faction. So a lot of these parts are interchangeable. You don't need a Harima necessarily to win. A UDK will definitely help you out, but a Urost will help you out just as much. So there are definitely some champions that can help you out more than others, but for the most part, most of these parts are interchangeable. Just like get one on your account that you can substitute for another, and you should be able to have the same results. Now, the one big difference is your gear. You want to have enough stats on your gear to get through the fight. Now, for me, I tend to be rotating through the same type of gear artifacts from one rotation to the next. 2 different champions, like Sathalia, for example, has the same poison artifact set that Coldheart had from rotation 1, and that's what I'm going to do for rotation 5. So once I've got my 5 pieces of 5 champions with their pieces that work, I know they're going to work for each rotation. So once you got it down for one rotation, you're going to be able to blast this out for each rotation. And as I pointed out originally in the very beginning of the video, I was able to kill the boss during rotation 4. I think I was the 7th in the world to beat him, and I was 3rd at the time of beating him. So you can do this fast. It doesn't have to necessarily be slow. It can be a very fast fight. You can get this done really quickly using this guide. Hopefully you guys found this guide helpful. If you guys did, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you guys have any questions in the future about what you guys should be doing, please leave them in the comment section. I'll try to answer them as fast as I can. You guys have a great day. You guys take it easy. Thanks for sticking with me to the end of the video. Peace.